everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Viall Files Bachelorette Recap Edition, and I am very excited to welcome back a fan favorite recapper, the one, the only, Jason Ritter is with us today to break down episode whatever of Michelle's season. Is it 5? Allie has informed us that it's 5. Allie, Amanda, also welcome to the party. Hope you're well. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're always excited to have you. Just a couple housekeeping notes. We have a very fun and exciting episode for you tomorrow. We'd figure everyone's talking about Taylor Swift and her song All Too Well. I knew. It's like the 10-minute.
I have so many notes for you, Nick. It's unreal.
And so, and I watched the video. There's a lot of conversations about it. We talk obviously about relationships and datings and terms that people are throwing out there. And we're bringing back the wonderful Dr. Diane Strakowski to talk about. We're gonna recap the video, not necessarily talking about like Taylor. We're all, just to clear, we're all Swifties in this room. I don't know about you, Jason, but
I am too. Yes,
we are all big fans. But Taylor gave us a gift of this like fight and this interaction between these two people, and there's a lot of conversations about it. And we wanted to bring in the expert to talk about what can we learn from this? Like, what are these communication styles? Is it an attachment style thing? What's going on? Who handled it well? How could we, if this is a fight we have found ourselves in before, et cetera, et cetera. So
cool.
We're going to break that down. It's going to be a ton of fun. So join us. It's going to be out a little late because we're recording it. So look for that about Wednesday afternoon-ish. You'll get a notification if you subscribe and follow. You're not going to want to miss that episode. Is there anything else? We have our merch line, our introverted line. If you want shirts that say things like, I was having fun until you asked me why I wasn't, check us out at viallfiles.com. If you find yourself to be introverted and tired of explaining yourself in public, why you are comfortable standing alone in your thoughts, check us out. Let's get to Michelle.
All right.
Jason, we, as always, as we bring on new guests, love just a quick thoughts on the season so far. Who are your favorites? What do you think about Michelle? Let's go.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, thoughts on the season so far. I love Michelle. I think she's awesome. I think she's it's pretty cool to see someone who just seems to like cull people as soon as there's like a bad moment. But it's like she's like, oh, that was weird, you're out. It's interesting to me. Like, it just seems like I don't know, I've seen a lot of people hang around longer than as an audience you're like, why is that person still there? And she really is like pretty good at just knowing that something is not vibing or not working.
She also does it in a way because, like, you know, clearly, like, there is the TV element, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
You know, I call Chris Skippy, by the way, but Skippy would have been gone like forever ago if it weren't for TV. But whatever.
That's true.
But what she does do really well, I think better than maybe anyone before her, is that she doesn't just look annoyed and like try to get through like the awkward interaction with whoever it is. She has that time to like ask them tough questions and lean into them. And she's very like, we'll get into it later, but like, oh, by the way, I fucking told you about Martin, everybody. I fucking told you. I fucking told you.
I had a roller coaster version with Martin, but I my initial thing was right too. But I was really fooled in the middle there.
I was wrong about Will. I was wrong about Romeo, but I fucking was right about Martin.
The Miami came out.
We'll get into it. We'll break it down, but we'll get into it.
I think an interesting thing that I think has started. I don't know which season it started, but I think it's a newer thing in the Bachelorette franchise, which is like this sort of group, like herd protection of the Bachelor or Bachelorette, where they're like, this person's bad, we gotta all like get him out or get her out. It's an interesting newish thing, because it used to be a lot of people were just like, oh, we'll just focus on our own thing, let the villain crash and burn on their own. And now people were like, we got to warn you and instead of having it be like a one-on-one where one person says, I don't think this guy is good for you. And then they pit them together. It's like the whole house comes together to get rid of a poisonous element.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain degree that's happened a lot, but I think, there's always been subtle differences between the Bachelorette and the Bachelor.
Yeah.
And I think one of those differences, the Bachelorette is like, and maybe it's like men's old fashioned instinct to want to be protectors and et cetera, et cetera. Also, like, they don't want to look like assholes. So there's definitely that element. And like the Bachelorette definitely gets a longer leash of being like, nope, get the fuck out, than the Bachelor, because when it's the Bachelor, it's like, give her a chance, like a little bit of that. Yeah. And like, we love hating on like average men on this show. And it's true. In a different way. So we kick things off. We're on to Minneapolis, the great state of 10,000 lakes. Allie, super excited because she's from Minneapolis. Also, just little known fact, Wisconsin has more lakes than Minnesota. So,
I never would have guessed that.
It's actually by quite a bit. Actually,
10,017.
But Minnesota is actually closer to 20,000. Fun fact.
Wow.
Whatever. Wisconsin has. I
hate Wisconsin.
It's a quick Google search, Elliot.
Is there a Minnesota Wisconsin rivalry?
Well, yeah, in some sense. Well, football certainly.
Football, right?
We really hate the Vikings in Packer Nation.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't think there's much love for Packer fans over in the great state of Minnesota.
This says, we have about 3,000 less than Wisconsin.
Wow,
Yeah.
3,000.
Well, California produces more dairy than Wisconsin, and we're the dairy state. So,
I did not know that.
Outdated identities of our states. I don't know. Anyways, we're in Minnesota. It's like they were there probably like August-ish.
It's got to be hot because
because like obviously there's definitely seasons.
Yeah.
In Minnesota. And thankfully it's a nice time to be in Minnesota. As we suspected, why we wondered why Nayte and Joe weren't getting one-on-ones. Well,
here they are.
You're going to have your favorites or some of your favorites have a one-on-one where you grew up, the place that's the most special to you, not in some random hotel in the middle of a desert. It's like, who do you want to run around naked with in a desert, and who do you want to introduce to your best friends?
Exactly.
So
not always the same person.
Not always the same person. We kick things off with Joe. I'm going back and forth between, is Michelle going to pick Joe or Nayte? And even in this episode, I kept going back and forth because she's really giving us like clues of each, right? Like,
oh yeah. I don't know how she'll be able to choose, or if someone else will come. But she seems to have a real, genuine connection with both of them.
Both of them, yeah. And so she takes Joe, Twins game, sports. They throw out the first pitch. That was a nice toss by Michelle. I don't think people appreciate what it's like to throw from a mound on a professional baseball field around a crowd. That was quite the throw.
You get one shot.
That was quite the throw.
You get one shot. You can't, I don't know if you get practice before,
but nevertheless,
you might get a little bit of practice. But here you go. Here's one pitch, and it could leave your hand wrong, and then you're the person who had the embarrassing pitch.
We've seen world-class athletes of different sports throw some truly devastating throws. So props to Michelle.
Yeah, baseball's not even her
sport. So. She takes him to the high school, whatever. Like, obviously that makes sense, very much Joe and Michelle. What did Michelle say? And I think it was about Joe and not Nayte. But it was just like, you don't say that about people that you... God, fuck, what did she say?
Was it about him being like her dad and brother?
She just said something where it was like, there's a difference between like, I have fun with them and hanging out versus like, I can see it. She was in her mind visualizing a relationship with Joe, right? And we get on these one-on-ones. I wish we really had the quote, but
well, she said, was it the thing about like, didn't she say something about Mr. and Mrs. Minneapolis? And she's like, you could see it, right? Like because there is that thing where
yes, it was right around that time. It was right around.
It was like Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball, like because they both had that weird title, or she was a runner-up in high school, which I didn't even know was a thing. And then she's like, you can just see it, right? They just go together.
Yeah, it was around that point. Thank you. And she said something very like, she's very good with her words. She said something kind of beautiful. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, having been in Michelle's shoes before, there's people like you think that are attractive, you have a good time with, you're like, you're cool. And like you have respect, but then there's people you're just like taking the time to visualize a life with them. And that's a big deal in that world where you're trying to like, not only like you're fall in love, but trust your emotions and feelings enough where you could be like, I'm going to take a chance at trying to have a life with you. And she is doing that with Joe, which I think is something you should like pay attention to versus like when she talks to Rodney, right? Like you see a clear connection and she's like, it's so easy to talk with you. It's so easy. I have so much fun with you. You make me laugh. And these are important and relatable things, right? Not to discount her time with Rodney.
No, I love Rodney.
But you could kind of say that about anyone as well, right? You can like anyone you don't want to marry, could be like, it's really easy to talk to you. I enjoy being around Rodney. Let's invite Rodney to the party because he's enjoyable to be around versus like.
I find myself thinking about like waking up next to you and going and our kids and going, all that kind of stuff. So
clearly I think there's a hint there. She clearly likes, we know she likes Joe, but I'm just like, is it Joe or is it Nayte? Is it Joe? Is it Nayte? And like, I'm watching this date thinking it's Joe, but we'll get to the Nayte later.
I love Joe.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say. I just, I root for them when they're together. I think they're like Mr. and Mrs. whatever the title. I think it was Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah, it was Mr. and Ms. Basketball.
Yeah, they each won it at separate times.
She was second.
She was second, yes.
She didn't win.
Oh, she didn't win. Oh, okay. But she was close.
She's really good at basketball. They never show her missing a shot.
They never do. I noticed in her yearbook, she's number 23, which is like a very intense number. Like that's Michael Jordan's number, right? So you have to really like, if you're gonna choose that number, you have to really bring it. And it seems like she really,
I think she brought it. Did. Yeah.
She's like, yes, I have earned this number.
So many things can cause stress in our lives. For me, recapping The Bachelorette. For other people, it might be money problems, relationship problems. Maybe you have a fear of breaking up with someone. It doesn't really matter what it is. Sometimes we just get it out and talk through our problems. And it's not always your friends and it's not always me. It's sometimes we need a professional to help guide us through these things. And sometimes these are ongoing conversations that need to happen. BetterHelp is making it easy for you to get the mental health work that you need to be your better self. So start communicating with a therapist in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not a self-help line. It's professional counseling done securely online. There is a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. They always try to assign you with the appropriate professional counselor or therapist based on your needs. You can always switch. They're always trying to make this process as convenient and as easy as possible. You can do it from your phone, your computer, your tablet, whatever, in your car, in your home, wherever you are on the road. Therapy made easy. Get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/Viall Files. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, and join over the 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Viall File listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Viall Files. Noom. Shavings make a pile. That's right. Small steps make big progress. And Noom is helping you meet your wellness goals with a cognitive behavioral approach focused on why instead of the what to help you change your relationship with food. So whether you want to maybe gain weight, gain muscle mass, lose weight, or maybe just like have more energy because you're eating the wrong things, Noom is helping you meet those goals. Everybody's journeys looks different. Noom believes it's about progress, not perfection. 75% of Noomers finish their program. That's great success. Noom has published over 30 peer-reviewed scientific journal articles about the science that goes into their approach in helping people achieve a healthier way of life. And the best part is, it only takes a little bit each day. All you need to do is invest about 10 minutes a day. Noom fits into your life on your terms. No grueling early mornings or huge chunks out of your day. I certainly love Noom. It's helped me as I've gotten older, maintained my sexy body because honestly, I just want to look good naked. It's a personal goal of mine.
Sure.
You know, don't judge me. There's an app. It's super easy, so you have no excuses not to do it 10 minutes a day. Start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Sign up for your trial at noom.com/VIALL. That is NOOM.com/VIALL.
So we get to the nighttime portion of the date. And here's what I really liked about this is that it started off like, oh, here we go. Former athletes, you know, big sad story is I don't get to play sports anymore. Like that's how it started. We have seen this type of like profession of like sad story before. And most of the time, in fact, almost every other time that I can remember, it just goes something like, I like sports. My whole identity was wrapped up in sports. It's thought I always like was going to like be a professional. Now I'm not. And I've struggled. And you're like, oh, bummer. Like you have to welcome to the world, buddy. Right? That's how it comes across. But Joe takes a huge step forward. Right? And I think, I thought it was really beautiful. And we should give Joe an immense amount of credit for the way he talked about it and went so much deeper, because we look at Joe about this beautiful, good-looking guy. He has it all, right? And even before that, he was like Mr. Basketball. He played Division I college hoops, like whatever. He got injured, and it would be very easy for a lot of people to just not feel sorry for him, and yet he talked about depression, and he talked about, you're just like, wow, he made the audience feel what it would be like to lose all that, and what it would feel, and his fears, and even at the risk of people judging him, and at the risk of people not empathizing with his situation. It took a lot to talk about that stuff and really kind of let us in his world and his feelings. And I thought it was like really a great thing for Joe.
It was, I was sitting there and I was so proud of Joe, just especially because he's he talked about that, you know, he's sort of introverted. His dad didn't show a lot of emotion. So he's kind of gone that way too, but he really wants to try to be vulnerable for Michelle. And then he really did. Like he didn't come back, and you know, it's different than watching someone who talks about this kind of stuff all the time and has, you know, the more you tell a painful story, the easier it gets to tell. And at a certain point, sometimes you can kind of package it up and it's like, here it is. And it was clear that he hadn't talked about it that much before, but that he'd been working on it and getting help. And like you said, he really brought you to that place of, especially for a quiet person who that was his whole identity, and having to, you know, let that go, and not knowing who you are or what your future held or any of that. I just was like, I was really moved by it. And then I thought at the end, he said, I think, did he say, or did Michelle say something about like the best things in life are things that are on the other side of fear?
Oh my God. That was,
I love that.
Thank you for, it was like, that was amazing. Oh my God. I thought about that.
Tears.
Yes. Well, I didn't burst into tears, but I thought about it for like 10 minutes. And I've always said, like, I feel like, when I do my questions, like I tried to like say things like that or something that sounds like that or articulate that thought, but the way Joe said it, and he got it, who did he get it from? Like a uncle or a coach or a dad?
Something like that. Yeah.
But yes, like it was like good things are on the other side of fear, like special things, and that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, like that's alone like a great takeaway for this entire season. We could end the season right now and be like, just so you know, anyone who's watching, great things are on the other side of fear. And that's so true.
I also think that like that his whole journey after that date, it kind of colored for me retroactively his sort of ghosting of her earlier. I was like, oh, because when he explained it to her, I did believe him. He said that something like was going on and he just didn't deal with it. And I do see in him the desire to grow, to not act like that anymore, to like, to sort of be more accountable and be less afraid. We can all get kind of overwhelmed by anxieties and sort of drop out. And now here he is showing up and being like, this is so scary for me, which is also so scary to admit ever that you're scared of anything, but to say that and to then push through it is like so awesome.
Yeah, totally. And like we've talked about this, it wasn't necessarily actually ghosted. Michelle provided context, but nevertheless, to your point, like had Michelle DM'd Martin, they responded a couple times and then Martin doesn't reply. I'm like, this fuck boy is just like, he just can't, Michelle's is too deep on the roster. He's just putting her on the bench, right? Right. But with Joe, as we've and when we met Joe, we didn't know if that was Joe. Like we didn't know. Here's this tall, good-looking guy, like
star athlete.
This guy could easily be like Martin, right? But we've as we've gotten to know Joe more and more, he's clearly, you can't judge Joe. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge Joe by how he presents himself early on. If you just like stood there, saw a picture of Joe and just listed his resume, you would be like, oh, there's like a 70% chance he's a fuckboy, right? Like
Rum Haven. Hey, no matter the time of year, no matter the weather outside, you can have a tropical sensation inside with delicious Rum Haven. Perfect for mixing to create cocktails or to be enjoyed on its own. I personally enjoy it with an ice cube because it's delicious on its own. And the best part is it's made with real coconut water. It has no added preservatives and no artificial flavors. It's great. It doesn't have any crap it doesn't need. Has all the things it does, especially that great taste. Some of the delicious drinks that are easy to make with Rum Haven. A Haven on Earth, which is sweet pineapple and club soda. A Haven in Hell, spicy jalapeno and chili pepper, pineapple and lime. A Cocojito, that's tart, lime, mint, club soda. And Havenly cider. Enjoyed hot apple cider with Rum Haven. All delicious. And the best part is you have a tropical feel inside your home and your friends will feel excited and it just brings a lively spirit to any party. So discover more recipes that will help you sip into paradise at rumhaven.com.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah. So really, really, like I love this one-on-one with Joe and Michelle. We've been waiting for this date. And it's interesting because and then Michelle talks about how much Joe reminds her of her dad, and in a lot of circles, and I think, is it more common for, do you think it's more common for women to be attracted to men that remind them of their fathers, or women that remind people of their mom? Because I think my mom's amazing and the most wonderful person in the world, but I've never dated anyone like my mom.
I think it depends on your relationship.
I have a close relationship with my mom. Anyway, but it is a thing, though, right? It seems to be more of a thing for women to date men who remind them of their fathers. In a lot of ways. So when she says that, I'm like, oh shit, okay. And you can see how they balance each other out. Like Joe being the quiet, reserved, Michelle more outspoken, right? Now she does need someone who can check her and she needs her equal, but Joe might do it differently, and he might do it in a place where it's behind closed doors where he's comfortable with them and they can have a conversation, and he's not necessarily going to be Nayte, the life of the party, fun guy.
Well, and maybe that's an energy that Michelle understands. If that's the dynamic that her mom and dad have, maybe that would be something that she could relax into and not go, what is he thinking? He's not talking. Go, oh yeah, this is my dad sometimes needed some quiet time, or whatever it is. And yeah, I don't know. I really love Joe. So
you hope together. Right now, you hope that she ends up with Joe?
I have different feelings because there's also a lot of she does have a pretty great group right now. And, I like a lot of the guys, but there's just something about, something that I think is always very attractive in human beings and people in general is like when they've done some work on themselves. And sometimes people, and like people like Joe have had it forced upon them. Like he had a choice whether to exit this earth or stay in a place of depression or really like work through it. And he thankfully, decided to do that. And I think that's so cool. It's like, it's a different level of your own thinking when you've let the person that you thought you were kind of die and you've emerged from the ashes.
It's interesting awesome. When I think about the Nayte and Joe is like, they're very different guys.
Oh yeah.
And I think 100%. A relationship with both, you can see a relationship with both. You can see why she likes them. And I'm not just talking about their looks, but you can see the chemistry. You can see the connection. You can see what they would bring out in Michelle and vice versa. And yet very different, right? So like, with Nayte, I think she would be able to date a guy for the first time who, is outgoing and fun. And I think, especially in social settings would allow Michelle to like kind of spread her wings more because she doesn't have to necessarily like work the room as much, I think, as she had to in the past because like Nate's such a presence. Right. And I think with Joe, she would have to do a little bit more of that heavy lifting, him being more introverted. But at the same time, Nayte hasn't done necessarily a great job. He's so like chill and like he kind of has like last episode was kind of this too cool for school energy. And I think, Joe has shown this willingness to open up. And I think Michelle really connects with that and likes that. And Nayte hasn't really done that yet. I mean, not to get too far ahead, but it was Michelle opening up to Nayte, not the other way around. And so like, it seems like early on, she might get that emotional connection with Joe that she's not getting with Nayte.
Yeah, I definitely am interested to see like more of Nayte. I feel like he's clearly like a good person. I thought Chris's assessment of that statement was just totally off the mark. It didn't seem like arrogant or like I got this in the bag at all. To me, it seemed like I really trust the connection and I don't think she would send me home without having a one-on-one. Not that he would say that either, but there's I feel like
there's nothing
that
was
the sort of the thought process.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into it. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt on this show.
Me too.
Like
Me too.
I'm going to be once again going to be tough on Clayton. I'm tough on Martin. These guys seem like nice guys. I don't know them. They seem cool.
Yeah,
I truly fucking hate Chris. And I try, and I say this trying to like hold back my reservations, understanding there's an edit, understanding like we don't get to see anything. We talk a lot about on the show, like, if you're hearing a voiceover, if you're feeling a certain way about a character while music's really intense, like be careful about like your assessment. But like, Chris is giving us he's repeating the same thing over and over. And we're seeing the words come out of his mouth that are not just quick sound bites, but this expectation that Chris has of that he deserves something from Michelle just because he thinks he did something for her is just the worst kind of person.
It's the entitlement. And it's also the like, it's also the sort of the petulance of being on the group date and being like, she never came up to me one time. And it's like, well, this is, people read energy and you were clearly upset from the beginning that she wasn't like, thank you for saving me from Nayte.
Well, it's also like bizarre, and we'll just jump into the group date, like talking about Chris, but like it's a group date. Like this is the show. There's one Bachelorette. There's a bunch of you. Like you have to make time, and it's fascinating. Like certainly, it's a two-way street. We get into these types of conversations on the show, especially when someone feels validated. It's just like, well, I want to know they like me. God,
of course.
But like, where is Chris getting this? Like, in what world does Chris think he's in a position like the hubris coming from Chris is almost like, it's almost like just fascinating. It's just like, where do you get off thinking that she's going to make time for you? Like most of the people are pretty self-aware. It's just like, hey, you know, you'll get people in that world being like, I have a great connection with Michelle and like, you didn't get to see our moments, but like, they know, they know. It's just like, I have a great connection with Michelle, but like, if like 5 other guys weren't here, it's just like, and they like, they're chumming it up with each other. But Chris is talking like, like I mean, it's wild. Like he's some prize.
Even that, I mean, I know it's a different episode, but even that, like speaking for her, I mean, it comes up in this one too, but that was already kind of like a bizarre moment where she came down and he was like, all right, everybody, before she says anything.
He handed her a drink. It was like, Michelle, I got this. It was fucking wild. Before we really lean into Chris, though, we have the group date. Nayte, find out, like, I was shocked that Nayte got the 101. I did think Michelle was going to like make him sweat a little bit more. And despite it being Minnesota, but it makes sense knowing that what the date was. Like if you really like a guy, but he makes you nervous because he brings up maybe some red flags, or like some guy, you know, who's like, 4 foot nothing warns you about, you know, that one of your main interests, like, I understand that you want to get your friends like read on them. Like that makes sense.
Get their eyes.
So we find out like Nate's going to get the 101. They take him to the Minnesota Vikings stadium and like, the football team. Like, oh, we're going to beat the football players. But like, nope, it's going to be Vikings.
These 3 guys.
And here, just like, I'm sure, again, Clayton, nice guy. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I can't look forward to meeting him and interview him and etc. But like, truly, we're just waiting. What the fuck? Like, when it's like, we only see Clayton when they're doing an incredibly athletic task, and we only see him light up when he realizes he might get the opportunity to kick the shit out of someone. You know, like that's the only time he lights up, and so. With the look on his face when the Vikings, not the Minnesota football players, but actual Vikings came out, it was like he gave a look that like I kind of saw Clayton, where it's like he was at like career day in elementary school, and on career day it was like, all right, what are your first 3 choices? And he was like, okay, I want to be a professional football player. Obviously, that's number 1. He came, he made it. He didn't stick long, but incredible feat by Clayton to make it as far as he did. And number 2 on his list was Viking, an actual Viking. And it's like, that's what if I can't become a football player, I want to be a Viking. But unfortunately,
if I can bring back Vikings.
Yeah, there's no money in Vikings being an actual Viking these days. So he's like, number 3 is going on the Bachelorette. Right. And then and it's like he found himself on the Bachelorette being like, okay, my 3rd choice, not so bad. And then the Vikings came out and he was like, oh my God, I get to do on a football field. I get to be a Viking, and this is the greatest day of all time. That was the look on his face.
He was very excited. And I do have to say that, I mean, you know, obviously we don't see a lot of it, but I did clock a moment after he won his arm wrestling thing against Martin, I think. He gave him a little like, you know, some of the other guys were like, yeah, I won, I beat you. And he was like, good game. He was the only person I saw in that whole little section who was like, had that sort of sportsmanship thing, which I appreciated. But
again, he seems like a nice guy, but like also he's twice the size of everyone.
I know, he's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge.
And it was just like, we know he's the next Bachelor. And again, I'm not critical of Clayton as the human. It's more of the show. It's just like, this is like, why? I mean, I know he wasn't your first choice. I know, and it's not Clayton's fault, but like, you're choosing to only show moments of him showing personality when he gets to be athletic.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I actually had a moment because I remember, you know, hearing that he was going to be the Bachelor and then going, oh, really? And being sort of surprised. And then and then I've been like really kind of lasered in on him and trying to be like, who is this guy? What's going on? And there was a moment after the whole thing where he was kind of holding Michelle's hand, and his hand was kind of like shaking a little bit, and it was a little bit awkward. And I was like, "Oh, who's this? I want to know who this guy is. Like, who's the guy who's this giant and very handsome and gets this sort of nervous? Like I don't know. The more anybody can like open up and show me who they are, the more excited I get to like know them or root for them. And I haven't had a moment where he hasn't, it's not like he's had a one-on-one yet. So,
well, either has Brandon, and we feel like we're going to know Brandon, and he's, that's the thing too. It's just like, so, Clayton gets, more, we for the first time see like a conversation between him and Michelle.
Yeah. I think that
he has a great smile and he looks very nice. Right.
Right.
But like the conversation was nothing. It was just like, you've been in this position before, and like,
right.
Like I'm nervous, and and then she's, it was all very surface level. The next conversation she has is with Brandon, and he just swoops in there and is so charismatic. It's just that it's that, and it's not Clayton's fault per se, because maybe Michelle's clearly just not into him. Right? There's no connection there.
I don't.
But he is being just outshined by so many of these guys. Like, okay, Joe, the other athlete, right? Like Joe, like true athlete, incredible accomplishments in the athletic space. He told what could have been a very surface level conversation, as we talked about, like really dug deep, right? So why can't maybe she ends up with Joe, but like that's what I want out of like my Bachelor. Exactly. Like I want someone who's going to be able to like talk about like and dig deeper, and not just be the nice guy who's grateful to be there. And well, and I think that's the thing. Like usually, also I think this is maybe the earliest in a season that I found out who the Bachelor is. Yeah, I think it's,
So I usually by the point you find out, you've seen them be heartbroken, and you're like, oh, I know this person a little bit. I root for them. And I guess I don't know him well enough to be excited about that. And it's just weird. I guess when they were editing this all together, they didn't know he was going to.
No, that's the thing. They did.
It's just, so then that's even weirder. Like, I don't feel like they're setting him up. Again, like you said, he seems like a nice guy. But
they have the ability. Like I know enough about like the post process where like they definitely edit it in advance, but they can make changes as late as the Friday before. Like I know that to be the case.
So then,
if you're filming a season with this guy and airing a season before, you would think, yes, that's kind of been my whole point. These are his best moments.
Right. Yeah.
Like this must be all they have, because I don't know. And it's just like,
I hope at some point he opens up and they show us what his drive is, what his dreams are, where his pain is, all these, like, just
because the only thing we see getting him excited is when they're like, here, go hit this guy.
Exactly.
And he gets to do it and then be like, hey, good job, little man,
Yeah, that's true.
Me strong, I want to see more out of Clayton.
Me too.
I don't know.
Maybe we will. Maybe.
Well, he's running out of time, because I think we know he's not top 4. And even this group date rose that he's got, like this was a show rose. We got love roses and we got show rose. This was a show rose. You can't give Brandon his third group date rose. Joe and Nayte aren't on this date. Olu, he got a group date rose last week, back to back. Right, it's like, you could, but like, fuck it. Let's just give it to Clayton.
Yeah. Exactly. He worked hard.
It's very elementary school teacher, like kind of making sure it's fair.
Yeah. She just like, Michelle just being like, all right, like, let's give it to this guy.
Yeah. She did do the fake out. I feel like Katie or one of the other ones started to do that thing where I was like, at the end of the group date, she's like, Jeff, you did this. Steven, you did this. And I'm giving the rose to, and for the first time, Michelle's always been like, this is for you. And this time she was like, Brandon. Anyway,
that's just something they always do, and then they edit around it.
Oh, I see. All right. See, these are the secrets.
Yeah. Because like you typically will go around the room and compliment everyone.
Oh, nice.
Be like, and you showed up. And
yeah, you were here too.
And then like sometimes you start with the person you're gonna give a rose to. Sometimes you mix it up, but the idea is you go around the room and you want to give everyone a reason to think they're gonna get it. So when you give it to someone else, you get that reaction of disappointment, and all they need is like a split second to capture that disappointment. Because even if you're even if your first half of the second is like, fuck, and you're bummed, and then you're like, you know what? All right, good for him. I'm just going to be a good sport about that.
They take that little second.
They could choose to only show that quarter second of you being like, fuck,
Yeah. So I know, I always forget that.
What are you going to do? Chris, again, I'm blown away by his hubris and the arrogance about, like, it's easy to make fun of someone like Chris because you're just like, in what world do you think you have a chance, buddy? But then on top of that, it's just, again, like you said, the entitlement. And I hate to also use the word hyperbolic because I got roasted from it I was saying the word hyperbolic a lot last season. So like, I'm trying not to say it. I think this is the first time I've said it this season.
I'm honored. You waited until this episode.
I'm pretty sure.
No, because I'm pretty sure you gave that exact same like warning
anyway,
when you've done it before.
I'm going to use it again. I think Chris is kind of a bad guy in life.
Well, it's interesting when you see that thing of like, and we've seen it before, where someone is walking around. It looks like they're walking around talking to all the guys or all the ladies and being like, I just haven't gotten time. Meanwhile, on that same date, you see there was like a montage of people being like, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah.
Like everyone was just interrupting each other. And Chris didn't even seem to try. He was complaining about it, but without doing any sort of action to solve the problem. And then he was really, he really seemed genuinely shocked when the date was over.
Yeah.
And he was mouthing, wow. Oh, that was my favorite moment of, I think it was Brandon. He was like, Chris, you've been smacking your lips a lot. You got something to say?
Yeah, I love that. That was great, Brandon. I love that he said that.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
That was so funny.
And a couple things I want to point out that you said when you said everyone was like, they showed that montage. It's always funny because like, depending on what the show again wants to do, like that's every date, every season. Like,
right, exactly.
They're just like, hey, if you want to go talk to her, go talk to her. Sometimes they show that and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they make it look like you're inconsiderate of everyone's time. And sometimes it's just like, this is everyone taking the initiative. Like,
right,
that happens every fucking date.
Right.
So the fact that Chris, like, that's why I think why I think he might actually just be a shit human. And I hate to, and we still don't know, but like, again, how it's on this show every season, someone does something outrageous where there's always, we'll get DMs or people asking, it's like, is he a paid actor? And the thought is, there is no way, having this show been on for so long, and Chris clearly watches this fucking show. Like, you can't convince me otherwise if he's seen it, right?
Yeah.
And then you think to yourself, why would anyone with half a brain who is aware of how this show works go into this show and do some of the things that they're willing to do? You ask yourself, why? And what I think it is like, in that world, it's such a pressure cooker that what ultimately happens is you just end up, you can only fake it for so long. And sometimes you just end up being yourself and pressure situations. And I think that's what we're seeing with Chris. And Chris is shown to be someone who thinks when he does if he does a favor for someone, regardless of that, if that favor is asked or needed or anything, that he feels owed, and you owe him, and you better step up. And even in relationships with women, he will give that same energy to his partners. So if Chris looks like a type of guy in a relationship you better not disappoint. And maybe he's just an asshole about it.
But but that weird thing of like, I mean, it reminds me of like, I don't know, any number of movies like Cable Guy or Fatal Attraction, or this thing where it's like, hey, I'm just doing you a favor. And then it's like, you never paid me back for the favor that I did. It's like, well, I never, I didn't agree on like a back and forth. You did something, and then you had an expectation of what I owed you for that, but I never entered into that agreement. That agreement was something that you entered into in your head. And so now you're like coming to collect, but I never signed the contract that you're
100%.
Yeah. It's so it creates like an alternate reality that he's just, spiraling in his head going, wait a second, I did this for her. And, I feel bad. That's a dangerous mentality to have cultivated over your life. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's going to lead to a lot of disappointment, but it's also like potentially dangerous for people who you think owe you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like if at best case scenario, you're just going to enter into a bunch of toxic relationships and your expectation will never meet your reality. And then how you communicate to your partner will always be accusatory and put them on the defense.
Yeah. And you'll never be wrong. You'll just be waiting for them to validate your obvious correct view on the world.
Yeah, it was just so bizarre. And it was so like outrageous, his thought process, that I was thinking to myself, like, I know they don't hire actors, but fuck it. Maybe this is the first time. Who the fuck would say this?
By the way, who does Chris look like? There's some actor that he looks like and is driving up
you're
the
right.
wall.
I was thinking the same thing too.
And the closest thing that I could think of was like, at a certain point, well, there was a moment where he was talking to Casey, and Casey to me looks like if Harrison Ford and Dax Shepard kind of like had a crossover guy.
Yeah.
There's like something very Harrison Fordy about him. And there was a moment where Chris was standing next to him, and he sort of reminded me of Mark Hamill, who is a genuinely lovely and decent person by all. So I hate to do it, but it was like Mark Hamill, but then it was like maybe one of the Menendez brothers or something. There was like something like it's been driving me crazy. I like sort of. I can't even think of like what the actor is in that I'm thinking of, but I haven't been able to do it. But I was wondering if there was some consensus out there, someone could free me from my hell.
Is he almost Jake Gyllenhaal-esque?
In what way?
He doesn't have the beard.
You do a side-by-side comparison of their faces, similar structure.
I mean, despite what Jake Gyllenhaal is going through this week, Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is objectively one of the more beautiful men in Hollywood, and I don't feel the same about Chris S. You think they look alike?
But is that the personality? I mean, because I would say
I read off the bat, I'm like, he's a handsome guy, but I wasn't like front runner.
Right. Yeah.
Like if Jake Gyllenhaal got out of limo,
definitely a budget Jake Gyllenhaal, but I think they have similar
budget.
Chris reminds me of the type of person who would like buy you a $5 Tito's and soda at 9 p.m. and then circle back in the same bar at 1 a.m. saying, "Should I grab us an Uber?" Like just like expect that you're going home with him because he bought you a drink.
Yeah, 100. Yes.
If you're not gonna come in the Uber with me, that drink was about $10.
He's gonna like Venmo request you.
or like the type of guy where like you show up in a group, right? And all of a sudden they invite some friends, maybe some lady friends, and they order a bunch of food and you just like stop by to say hi, but you already ate dinner. And then at the end of dinner, like they insist that everyone splits the bill.
Yeah. And you had like 2 fries.
You didn't have anything.
Yeah.
You were just there. But they want to impress the women that they invited. So they look like big spenders by ordering a bunch of food, but like behind the table, like, hey guys, so like we all splitting this?
Yeah, we're all doing this, right?
Like that's Chris.
Yeah.
I've met so many Chris's before.
Yeah.
And I hate them. In case you haven't noticed. Nayte gets his one-on-one, obviously. And I feel for Nayte too, because he didn't have the best episode last week. And again, this is a weird world like of trying to open up. Some people are better at it than others. We can't necessarily fault Nayte, certainly right now. It's a weird thing to be randomly, like you don't want to get called out. You don't want a tighter on your back in this world. So when it happens, even if you did nothing, like there's a look of guilt or like what the fuck on your face, right? And that's what happened to Nayte last week. Could he have handled it better? Sure. But like nothing he did or didn't do last week was all that like, oh, like watch out for Nayte. He's a bad guy. Right. But clearly it did rub me the wrong way because like, and what I mean by this, like I felt for him because I related to Nayte being like, feeling like he has to defend him. Like it sucks to have to defend yourself when you didn't do anything. Because even taking the time to defend yourself sounds like you might be guilty. And he finally said what I was hoping he would say last week when he was talking to Michelle's friends, which is like, he owned what he said. I said this thing and I said it because like, I'm confident in our relationship. You know, exactly, and he said that to Michelle's friends, which I thought was like, that's what he should have said last week, as opposed to being like making it about what Chris said, et cetera, et cetera. But, and that's kind of the point. It's like, it takes time to like find your words sometimes in this world.
For sure. And I thought, I mean, it was funny. I did expect from like, especially later thinking about what Michelle seems to have gone through in her last relationship, which was awful. You know, her friends were like, we're here to ask the tough questions. And then I was like, I kind of wanted them to go harder, the friends. But I think Nayte is so clearly charming and such a, like, he just seems like such a good guy so immediately that I think the friends were like, all right, you're fine. You guys like each other. That's good enough.
Yeah. So I thought, you know, it was, you know, he did well again with her friends.
Yeah.
I was impressed by her friends' level of comfort in this world. Like they came ready. Yeah. They've seen the show clearly. You know, and it's a tough thing, you know, so then you're like, okay, Joe versus Nayte. Nayte got to meet the friends. And I was like, oh, Raven got to meet my family. And I knew Raven wasn't going to be my person. Even when I was like, yeah, Raven, come meet my mom and my dad and my sisters. And so like, does that mean he's the runner-up, or maybe Michelle still like doesn't genuinely know yet, and maybe it's between. I mean, we're this far into the season, and if Michelle doesn't have a clear front runner in her mind, she would be one of the only ones, despite all the like I didn't know until the day of.
I wonder if there's something, because Nayte is so like. He's really put together. He's really funny and easy to be around and kind. I wonder if there's a thing of like, you know, I feel like you bring your friends around when you're like, my body is telling me one thing, my heart is telling me something. But am I having like the blind spot that I always have when I see a funny, cool, handsome guy? Like, am I missing some red flags that maybe you guys can pick up on? I feel like she doesn't know him as well, and
she trusts herself less almost.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's because that chemistry is so strong with them.
Yeah, we've heard Michelle talk about like wanting her equal, not wanting to being the one who carries the relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, the juxtaposition between Joe and Nayte is developing into an interesting one because of the different personalities. Like there's clearly there's a connection with Nayte that radiates more than anyone else. Like with Joe, I think there's a quiet connection, an intimate connection, but it doesn't necessarily pop off the screen like it does with Nayte as much. But to your point, like you said, maybe Nate's the guy that she was. Oh, you know, we talk about like, you know, the spark and how that could be a red flag. That's maybe your intuition telling you like it's triggering your ego, being like, I want this person to like me. I want this person to validate me. And that's Nayte. Right. Here's this charming guy who's charismatic. And with Joe, she's pulling a little bit more out of Joe. Yeah. And with Nayte, I wonder if Nate's the guy she's always dated, because here she is opening up to Nayte, you know, like, well, if Nate's not going to open up to me, I'm going to open up to him. So, because either way, we're going to get an emotional moment on this date.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you're probably not going to get the emotional moment from the guy who's like, I'm a big kid. I just want to have fun, not have it be too serious. And Which I'm not trying to say as like a slam against Nayte. I mean, I think it's very important to maintain your connection to fun and, you know, and sort of childishness, but then also be able to kind of, you know, when she told him that story, I felt like he really was listening. You know, he wasn't like scared to go deep. And that was pretty, I mean, that sounded awful. I felt so bad for Michelle, what she'd been through. That's like when it's affected your literal
physical health. Yeah.
Life. Yeah.
Allie, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say the debate between Joe and Nayte and her potentially seeing red flags in Nayte, but them still having like an undeniable connection, like really brought me back to like JoJo not knowing if she should pick Jordan, because she was like, Jordan's the guy I've always dated, and that has not like gone well for me in the past. So shouldn't I be like trying to change that? But then
right,
it's
exactly.
like she's having the debate with herself, and
it's a relatable feeling. Yeah.
She even said later, she was like, if I get heartbroken at this point, like it's on me, because she's like willing to just keep moving forward.
Sure, yeah, it's becoming, you know, like the show's always the most interesting when the lead is really into two people and like you see the back and forth, and so I think we'll continue to see that. But back to Michelle's story, I look forward to when we have Michelle in this week. I look forward to asking her about getting more information and what, you know, clearly she, even before I've heard this story, Michelle, you know, referenced it a little bit on Matt's season, was clearly a woman who you could tell had been through life, and she's had her ups and downs, and she is someone who has chosen to learn from those moments and be better for it. And I love, you know, I can't wait to like talk to Michelle about some of those things that have brought her to who she is today. And obviously we got some more insight. So yeah, like how you could be physically, you could get yourself physically sick. And like, I'd really be curious of what Michelle, I'm really curious what Michelle's learned about herself, because there is an element of like, she must have saw some of these red flags prior to that point, but chose to stay in it for whatever reason. And finally she chose to leave, you know, and what was some of those insecurities or things going on in her head that made her choose to ignore her actual body saying, this is toxic for you. Yeah. You know,
well, and did it sound like that even after all of that, he left her, right? When she, like, I think that was, she was like, at my sickest, he left.
Yeah, that's right. And then she
realized that he was toxic. So it was even, so she never actually, so it's even more dangerous because you know, if someone leaves you and then you slowly on your own go, wow, that was actually really toxic and bad, and I didn't do enough to get out of it. It would be even scarier to re-enter into something where you go, I'm very good at like sticking it out.
Well, yeah, what, I mean,
you know, and
I think a lot of us can relate to that. Michelle, I know I can. When Michelle, she's a star athlete. She's always been successful. Mm-hmm. Part of being an athlete is overcoming adversity and work through challenges. Yeah. She's a teacher. She's constantly helping people. Real susceptible to that fixer mentality in relationships of being like, all right, we have a problem. Okay, I'm not going to panic. You know, my parents taught me, you know, there's highs and lows in relationships. And like, these are all like great things to learn, but in the wrong relationship, especially when we're younger, we try to apply all these like life lessons instilled by our parents and what we've done in like our, you know, in school and athletics. And we can get ourselves and stay in relatively toxic environments just because of our commitment to fixing things and not quitting and et cetera, et cetera. And I relate to that.
Gosh. Yeah. Same. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and so I think it's, I think it was really interesting to hear her share that, but you know, I wonder to talking about Joe and Nayte again. And, you know, it's interesting to think that Joe has also been through like a life-changing, you know, mental shifts. And we haven't heard from Nayte yet if he has had one of those kind of moments where he had to really step back and go, wow, I'm in a lot of pain, a lot of emotional distress, and I need to figure out how to work through it.
And you know what?
Which is not necessary. It's not necessary.
Maybe he hasn't, right? Like, that's the thing. It's like, maybe he's just like, listen, I've relatively been a blessed individual. I've certainly had some heartbreak or some disappointment.
Of course,
but like,
of course.
I don't know if it's necessarily... You know, Joe talked about the thoughts of having suicidal thoughts as it relates to like losing his identity. And we've certainly heard these other stories about parents passing.
Yeah.
And things like that. yeah, it's okay to not have
of course
a story in this world.
You just wonder if like if there's, you know, if it's at the end of the day, she'll be like, this person has been through more, or actually I like the way that this person feels who hasn't, you know, like had to, again, I don't know Nate's story. He could have a horrible, you know,
yeah, but I think to your point, it's like he's going to get another one-on-one. Nate's going to be here till the end. Will Nate, at least, whether he has a sad story or not, attempt to connect with Michelle on an emotional level that will show that his willingness to like talk about his, like, you don't have to have like a traumatic experience to have insecurities.
No.
And Nate clearly has insecurities. We don't know what they are. He comes across as someone who like you wouldn't imagine having any, but he does because he's a human being.
Of course.
And I think, you know, we want to learn what those things are because Michelle is so giving and generous with like her vulnerability that she needs someone, you know, to match that. Like, you know, and so we'll have to see Joe come more out of his shell and be the playful side, so that Michelle doesn't have to feel like in the real world, like, are you going to be like dead weight every time we go out? You know?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Are you going to be the aloof, kind of thoughtful person? But like, come on, man, let's just loosen up a little, you know?
Right. And, yeah. Totally. Yeah. It'll be down to what Michelle, what she prefers. And I don't want to. I love Nate too. I think he seems like such a great dude. But I still haven't. I want to know more. Let's
talk about Martin quick. Truly just loved this moment. One, because I was like, I know there's this, it's been there. It was there. But what I loved about it is, again, another moment where Michelle, she listens. And so many people, I think, in that conversation would have just like, oh, do you think I'm high maintenance? No, but a lot of women where I'm from are. And I think there's a lot of people who would take the bait and be like, well, I'm not. You know, Michelle could have taken that opportunity of Martin, like, basically generalizing an entire city of women. But yeah, there's a lot of people who would have used that opportunity to validate themselves. To be like, oh, a whole city of people are high maintenance. Well, once again, just here to remind you, I am not.
Right, exactly.
And
no, she really was like, let's explore this.
I mean, she immediately heard it. I heard it too, but I was just like, oh shit. Like, but she jumped on that, and I loved that she did it, right? And she's like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, it's a simple question. Like, what makes a woman high maintenance? Right. And what I loved about this is that Martin is so used to saying nothing and getting away with it. Like, it's he's a fuck boy. It's fine. Not a bad guy. He's out there. He's out popping bottles and smooth talking people, and I'm sure going to make a great partner someday. But up until this point, he has gotten away with talking a lot, but not saying anything at all. And he finds himself in this sticky situation, and his only go-to is to say a lot, but say nothing at all. And that doesn't work with someone like Michelle. Yeah. You were going to say something, Amanda?
Yeah, I was going to say, I felt like he was trying to hit her with the, you're not like other girls, by being like, all these women are high maintenance, but you're not. And it was so cool the way Michelle was not distracted by the, oh, you're special, you're different. That's what I'm saying. And held the line.
Yeah, she could have taken the bait to validate her ego, which a lot of people would do in that situation, to say, yeah, no, I am amazing. I'm the best. And she was like, no, wait, you just shit on thousands of my women, you know?
Where
like,
you live.
Not where she lives, but it was like
but where he lives,
it
like, he's gonna have to
came across as like talking shit about an old employer or an ex-girlfriend. It was like literally an entire, you know, what he could have said is like, well, what do you think? Let's try to think of what the best response, because sometimes you say things, you get yourself in trouble. Yeah, but he could have been like, you know, honestly, I shouldn't have isolated women in that situation. But if you're going to ask me what makes someone high maintenance, I would describe it as, say, someone who's expects more than they're willing to give, you know, something like that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, you seem someone who's so generous with what you're willing to give. It makes me want to give more to you, or something like that. But like,
where he really stepped in it is when he said, generally men don't go into a relationship expected to be taken care of fully. It was like, oh, some do. Some
I would argue that all men go into
right.
relationships with an expectation of being taken care of. It just might not be in the way that you generally think.
It's like emotional labor.
Exactly,
yes.
yeah.
Men
like
want to be
emotional labor.
Yes, they want men want to be taken care of. They want to be coddled. They want their feelings to be like often like just don't tease me, don't
Right, yeah.
like I'm very
Yeah, like it is a gift for me to even share how I'm feeling with you, let alone being like, okay, what are we going to do about this?
Yes, all men very much expect to be taken care of in relationships, and anyone who says otherwise, red flag.
I also think generally, like there was something in the way he said high maintenance, which to me didn't feel like, and this is just a wild assumption. I actually have no idea, but it didn't feel like he had been in love with someone who had just asked so much of him over the course of years that it broke him. It seemed more like someone who had a couple of women be like, hey, could I have like a little bit more? And he was like, whoa, you are.
Yeah.
This is.
Or like a guy who's hasn't really been in love yet or hasn't dug deep and he's out there like having fun with women. And to your point, is this not in Martin's current priority in life is Martin, which again, it's fine if when you're in your fuckboy state, as long as you're kind of just upfront about things, right. Martin is here for, and Martin, I will say in his defense, he doesn't seem like a person who like can't learn.
No, I feel really
like
smart.
This might be like like Martin. I believe that Martin possibly could watch this back, maybe have a woman in his life, like a mom or a sister or a friend, and maybe this podcast, I don't know. And he can go, yeah, that sounded really bad. Yeah. And then realize I do have a lot of emotional needs and I shouldn't have completely dismissed an entire city of women.
The one thing though that I will say that I mean, I hope for that too. And I hope for that for his sake, but like when you're talking about what happened, instead of going, oh my gosh, I started to sort of panic and I was saying things that when I think about, I'm like, oh, that's not what I was trying to say. When you hear someone saying things like there was a miscommunication on her end.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong.
Like, wait, what do you mean? There was either a miscommunication, which is both people, or you're just saying she heard.
Oh, he blamed her
wrong.
for sure.
Yeah. And even with talking to the guys later, he's like, I was just fucking saying.
No, he doesn't get it yet. That's what I'm saying. Like someone, this wasn't a guy who got nervous, said the wrong thing, panicked, and didn't know what to say. And then when he removed himself from that intense situation, was like, what the fuck was I saying? And then immediately find the time to be like, I'm so sorry. Like, that was really wrong of me to say. And I'm realizing now what I said and how that came across. We've all been there. And that is not Martin in this. Martin doesn't know what he said was wrong. The hope for Martin is that after watching it back months later and then him being like, I'll be honest, I just don't know if I get it yet. And then someone saying, well, let's walk through this. And him going, okay, yeah.
I mean, we don't even know. I mean, he could wake up the next day and be like, oh my gosh, it was just one bad night. And I spiraled all the way down in my confessions and my talks with the other dudes. And in the light of day, with this little hangover, maybe I'm remembering that I
totally.
But it'll probably be until
because like Amanda said, I think he was just like, I'm going to compliment her and this is going to go great. And again, like he doesn't know better because he's like, this has worked for everyone else he's talked to at the clubs. He's just like, you're not like every other girl. You're amazing. Like he just throws out compliments and most people he's hanging out with take the bait.
Yeah.
Well, and it's an interesting compliment because I feel like it's when you say, some other people are high maintenance, you're saying my expectations and hopes for you are low maintenance. And as soon as you show me that you're anything like when you are like, hey, you didn't text me for a month, I go, you say, so you're one of those high maintenance.
Well, exactly.
People? Like, it's an out. He's saying what he wants and what he expects. And, it's like a way to plant a little like escape hatch.
Like, even if he didn't say it about women, even if he just said, there's a lot of people who are high maintenance. Yeah. I love that Michelle asked that. Well, what do you mean by high maintenance? Because to your point, that's such a vague thing that someone might have normal and reasonable expectations and boundaries that you have deemed high maintenance because you don't want to deal with it. So like, I think we will talk about it or ask Dick when people are like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend and girlfriend? Oh, I don't know. What does that mean to you? What is being monogamous or what is like going steady? What is like being exclusive? How much do you want to prioritize a relationship? There's a bunch of questions most people often don't ask. We just do a bunch of assuming. And Michelle's at a point in her life where she's like, well, hold up. Like, what do you mean?
Define high maintenance because maybe I am. If what I'm asking, I don't think I'm, she's like, initially she's like, oh, I'm low maintenance. But then she was like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
What are the defining terms here?
It's like, I want to hang out with you twice a week. Well, babe, that's a little much for me,
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, I thought you said you were low maintenance.
And the goalpost can keep moving. When you call someone high maintenance and you make them scared of being high, if you make that like the thing that they have to avoid, then you're setting up a relationship where they do not want to take up space because anything could technically be deemed high maintenance.
Yeah, they're scared to ask for anything that they want or need, and then so they suppress it, and then it comes exploding out.
And it's definitely, I think, a trope that men used and accused towards women more often and put them on the defense. But like, men can be incredibly high maintenance.
Oh my God!
Incredibly.
Yeah. Chris
it is not a gender thing. It is a personality trait.
Yeah. In this very episode, Chris was like, I gave you a thing.
Yeah. Chris is the example of high maintenance.
Yeah.
It's wow. I believe that in that moment with Martin, like if it weren't for a TV show and a certain role and be like, blah, blah, like Martin would have got sent home in that moment. She went from whatever chance he had, and maybe it was like a fantasy suite because he's like sexy. When she gave Martin that rose, I think she like, you could sense a sense of like, I hate myself that I'm giving you this rose because I want to send you home right now because what you said was so off-putting to myself and women in general that I don't want to further validate you being here. That's how I felt that Michelle felt when she gave that rose.
Exactly. I felt the same. I feel like she even like had a little exhale.
Yeah, no, she did. She was just like, she said Martin, and she 100% went, Martin. Like you could tell it was like this disappointment. She's like, fuck, I hate being the Bachelorette.
But they had a weird moment on their one-on-one too, in the hot tub. That was like another kind of tense moment too. And she gave him a rose
with Jamie.
Yeah, but you're right. But neither of those, like even with Jamie, it was like, again, Michelle is not like this dictator where it's like you screw up once, you're out. She is a thoughtful person who's like, hey, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm not going to, that's a red flag. I'm not going to like cancel you right away, but like, I'm going to start paying more attention. But I think that this thing that Martin did was a fireable offense. And she was like, they're like, we need like a week. Give me a week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting too, because Martin has seemed so confident, and that the whole conversation started out of he said it's not like I'm insecure or something, but that's exactly what it is when he was saying, he'll get a compliment from her and then she's saying it to all the other guys or something like that. He can say that's not insecure, but that's exactly where it comes from. And that's fine. Everybody's insecure, but it was interesting to see like, oh, he's not necessarily, he portrays himself as like, I'm evolved, I'm a confident, guy. And some of the stuff he said about Jamie early on, I was like, okay, I heard him out too, and was like, he seems like he's thought about it. And but it's always sort of sad to see someone's insecurities take them over and make them, do something they.
Well, like I said last week, like Martin is the classic bros before hoes type of guy. He will always defend his buddies. I think this is another week of. I think Martin has a overall general opinion of women versus men, and maybe that comes from his upbringing, his culture. I don't know where it comes from, but he does not have a progressive or evolved point of view of women in general, and unfortunately, that's a lot of men in our society. But Martin definitely fits the mold of that kind of behavior that needs to be enlightened, I think, a little bit.
Well, even in the way that he was talking to the dudes afterwards, I was like, oh, that's the real you.
Yeah,
like
we saw Martin.
He's like,
Martin revealed himself this episode.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I said this, and then she fucking this. I was like, oh, this is you comfortable when you're like so still and just maintaining eye contact and talking really low. Like that's a thing that I need to talk to women like this. I talked to my dudes. It was like
working
this,
on Amanda a couple
like
weeks. He took off his glasses. Amanda's all like,
yeah, the nose piercing. But then it was truly, I totally agree with Jason. It was when he was talking to his friends that I found the most off-putting because it's like the way these guys are like, because he thinks he's getting away with it. Like he thinks he's so suave and sophisticated. And I think that's one of the great satisfactions of The Bachelor is like watching men who are like, I've gotten away with it, or The Bachelorette rather, I've gotten away with it this whole time. And then they get put on camera and it's not a good look.
That's the thing. Like you see someone like Nayte, for instance, who is talking to Michelle and he's fun and he's cool and he's nice. And then he's talking to the dudes and he's fun and he's cool and he's nice. It's like I think, you really do get to see when people are like, well, this is how I talk to women and this is how I talk to dudes. There's like a separation, a compartmentalization of like, how they see people and how they try to manipulate how they feel about them.
So we hope that Martin will evolve and this will be a positive experience. And I think he's capable of it. And, maybe he's just, how old is Martin?
I don't know.
He's 29.
30.
Okay.
Oh, 29. Oh, okay. So he's
he's young-ish, but he better catch up, Martin. You got some growing up to do. Just to wrap it up, I love how Nate's response when Skippy came. He just goes, weird.
Oh, yeah. I know. Nate's always been really good at calling out the strange behavior. Like, even with Jamie, he was like, wait, so, sorry, explain it to me. Someone in the house said, and then you said, you told me, like, I like the way his mind works.
Yeah.
When it comes to I'm going to say if it's weird, I'm going to say that it's weird.
Michelle did a great job of, as always, standing up for Chris. You spoke for me. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. And Nate, Nate could have gotten insecure in that moment. Not necessarily with Chris, but like could have felt the need to bravado and then come out there. He's like, Michelle's got this. I'm going to let her take care of herself. I'm going to be in the background if anything happens, but like nothing's going to happen. She's a capable woman. I'll let her defend herself. I don't need to come in here and be in the knight in shining armor every time. Like she's doing something I don't like. And I think that showed a little bond and a trust between Nate and Michelle, all while simultaneously getting Skippy the fuck out of Dodge.
He didn't even like gloat about Chris going. He just was like, cool. All right. I thought he handled that whole situation really well.
Well, I think it's because he just knows, like, he was just like, this is a matter of time.
And the irony that Skippy, in trying to demonize Nate, just gave a sticking point for Nate and Michelle's relationship to grow even more. He gave them a tiny bit of adversity that they could overcome together as a couple.
That's true. Yeah.
The show decided, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, and TBD, is that they still left a seed of doubt, right? After she sent home Chris, they showed Michelle or aired Michelle talking about that Chris was warning her about Nate. And despite, because she sent Nate home because he spoke for her, also because like she had no interest in him whatsoever.
Chris home.
Chris. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. She sent him Chris home because she had no interest in him and she spoke for her fine. Like that was just like inevitable. But they didn't make it seem like any concern, whatever, of Nate was completely wiped out. Now, is that for just to keep us wondering, or is it foreshadowing, Nayte, like maybe, Greg was unproblematic until he was problematic, on the show. And so we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to tell. Or they could just be like, let's knock our front runner back a little bit.
100%.
Keep them guessing. So it's not just like, oh, it was Nayte the whole time.
The fact that you're seeing a little chinks in Nayte's armor, but it's really nothing all at the same time, also makes me feel like maybe he wins.
Yeah.
But they also have the benefit of knowing that they aren't, well, they have their bachelor. It's a guy who is being outshined by everyone. And most seasons, they will make that person look flawless. Right. And, your winner or your first runner up or they'll ultimately look good overall, but you're capable of showing chinks in the armor. But your next lead, you're very careful about like, this man's perfect. He's a good fighter and he's good with kids, apparently. I'm sorry, Nayte. Okay. I'm sorry, Clayton. I don't like, I'm sure you're fine. It's remarkable. No, this is all they have so far. Yeah.
I wonder, maybe they've got something coming.
He's got to get a one-on-one next week. I mean, we're down to 8. He's not top 4.
Yeah, it's clearly going to be a comeback situation with him in terms of like just like relevance, not even with actually getting to the relationship with Michelle, but it's like America loves a comeback. We love like an anonymous man proving himself, but I think that is impossible because we know it's him, so we can't be surprised because we've been watching him this whole time and getting disappointed.
Well, it's going to happen. He's going to get a one-on-one next week is my guess. He'll be fine. Yeah. He'll be good with kids or whatever. I don't know. And then he'll go home the week before hometowns in a very unceremonious kind of like whatever way. There's no stakes. It'll be kind of like, when Katie was the Bachelorette, like, she got sent home on a one-on-one. To Katie's defense,
that's right.
She was a character on the show. I mean, she was a fan favorite. She was outspoken. We saw her personality. She shined, even without getting any real time with Matt. True. Like whatever if you liked her or disliked her, it didn't matter. She shined on the show. And like Clayton, it hurts how much they're trying and how little they have to work with.
I mean, maybe there's there'll be some crazy, we'll get to know him in some way that will endear us to him and retroactively make us root for him.
Yeah, I want to see it. Hopefully next week and go, now I see it. Now I get it. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Wow. What a mystery this guy is.
Yeah.
And I hope so. I truly want that. But every week it's, hey, Clayton, you get to hit somebody.
He's strong.
You're strong. I think we got it covered.
Yeah. Do we want to do top 4 now? Because it feels like there's some real shit.
Who's your top 4, Jason? Who's your winner? Who's your top 4?
My top 4 are Joe, Nayte, Brandon, Rodney, just because I love Rodney so much and he's funny and he's sweet. And I also really feel for Rick. I think that his story is so painful. And I want for him that like Goodwill Hunting moment where, someone just says, it's not your fault. It's not your fault over and over again to him. Just because I see that he carries that around. And I really like him and I really think he's good. But I think Rodney and, every time, he's sort of like the comic relief and he's super funny and all the dudes love him. But then I feel like he and Michelle do have like a strange connection. And I think he could make it at least top 4. The only thing that's stopping him is I think that she has a better connection with some of the other dudes. But yeah, I think those are my top 4.
I actually agree with you. I can't tell who's going to win between Joe and Nayte, but those are my top 2. I think Brandon is 3, and 4, I would have to pick Rick or Rodney.
Yeah.
Right? Is there any, like, who else?
I feel like Clayton might make it to hometowns.
No.
Okay. It's a bet.
All right. You thought Martin.
Yeah, I think, either Rick or Rick and Brandon are going to be. Those are going to be tough.
Who else? So we got those 4. Then we got Clayton, and who are the other 3 left?
Olu.
Olu. I think Olu might. Yeah, I think Olu has a chance. Although, at the end of the day, I think he really likes her, and Michelle really respects Olu, but I don't necessarily see the connection.
Olu has like
I don't either, but I thought that was really beautiful, that moment where he got really emotional and you know.
But he also, I think, shows a very different side to Michelle, like the relating to the sister, like telling her this past episode, I'm pushed to be better because of you. And then his ITMs are, I hope he doesn't come back. I think I get cockish energy from him. I hate him. Like he does nothing but kind of talk shit in the ITMs.
Yeah, which is fine.
That's true. Okay. That's true. I didn't even.
I love a good shit talker in the ITMs. That's your time to like be the narrator or point out your like, you know,
especially if you're doing it about the right people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Michelle respects Olu, but I don't know if I see I think there's a stronger connection with Rodney. And then who else?
Martin needs to go home at some point.
Martin's only there now to just. Martin's there because we have the Michelle knows. So the rest of the guys need to find out, and then we need to have a Martin takedown, essentially.
Yeah.
The only thing Michelle, she's so good that she kind of ruins it. Like she sesses out the shitheads before the house does. Or other seasons, it has to be manufactured a little bit, and then like the lead's kind of like at least perceived to be in the blind. Be like, oh my god, like I thought you were the greatest. They said They said everyone else in the world is high maintenance, and I'm not. So like, what's not to like?
Exactly.
But like Michelle kind of ruins it by like knowing that, but now the guys have to find out. And then, and then Martin will do something weird, and then she'll send him home. Probably next week.
I can't imagine. I mean, because it's really down to the wire in terms of like, you know, every guy left, she's had some kind of serious connection with. You know, we never got to see a lot of Leroy, so I wasn't, or Casey, so that it wasn't that big.
I really liked Leroy. I feel like he's somebody who could go on Paradise and really shine. It was just like I don't think Michelle was into him, but it seemed like a guy who like had a lot of personality that just didn't make the cutting room floor.
The edits, I completely agree. I would watch Leroy on Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah, and Casey seems fine. You know, like nice. We'll definitely see him.
Solid dude.
Potentially in Paradise. Yeah. Jason, always a pleasure. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Please always let the people know where they can follow you, new projects you have coming out or already out, or that you're working on that you're allowed to talk about, if any.
Well, I'm on Twitter at Jason Ritter. I'm on TikTok now. Yeah. Now we're all on TikTok. That's at Jason Ritter at Jason Ritter 1980, I think, because so many things were taken. Well, season 2 of Raising Dion is coming out in February, so that'll be fun. And then I'm working on a couple animated things as well, and I'll tell that later. I'll put it all on Twitter and stuff.
Great, Jason, always a pleasure. We love having you on, and come back soon. Thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castmedia.com. Cast with a K for Ask Nick episodes. Look for our episode coming out sometime on Wednesday with Dr. Diane, breaking down the very well talked about All Too Well music video of Taylor Swift's. And hopefully we can learn a little bit about communication styles and attachment styles and relationships. By doing so, there'll be a ton of fun with Dr. Diane. And if nothing else, have a great day. Hey guys, thanks for watching. But before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Mondays Ask Nick, especially if you're looking for some relationship stories and relationship advice, as well as our Wednesday interviews with your favorite celebrities and experts. See you next time.